Hi, everyone. I'm Kerry, and welcome to Court Hopping. Today, we're going to go over to Judge Wolf's courtroom, and they've got a really, I would say, peculiar case, really strange, and worth. It's kind of a long one, but I think it's worth it. So let's watch.
Elaine Mitchell versus John Kirby.
Your Honor, that's your review set because Mr. Kirby is currently incarcerated for civil contempt. I'm not sure if you want to have a full-blown hearing or how you want to handle it.
Well, he's in custody, I think, correct?
Come on up, Mr.
Kirby, come to the podium. Kirby, you failed to appear at the hearing in this case on the petition for contempt, charging you with contempt for denial of the visitation rights that were previously ordered to the petitioner at that point in time. And at this point in time, since you were not in person here at the hearing, all I could do is to find you a willful and deliberate contempt and order that you be incarcerated for that. Do you understand what happened in that scenario?
Yes, sir, I do.
You understand that there is a valid court order down that awards Mrs. Kirby certain visitation. She's now Miss Mitchell, that she was awarded certain visitation rights with the minor children, and that the proof of that hearing is that you've not allowed her to have any contact with the children for some extended period of time. Do you understand that?
Yes, sir.
So do you, number one, do you have a lawyer that you have? Have you retained a lawyer to represent you on this matter?
No, sir, I don't have any means of getting a lawyer.
All right. Ms. Smith, what is your client's position regarding Mr. Kirby now that he's been incarcerated for a couple of weeks?
Well, Your Honor, we've discovered some rather disturbing things. Firstly, that the children have not been receiving any education at all. They were certified as spending 4 hours a day being educated to the Dixon County School Board by Mr. Kirby. According to the children, they have GED books that their father bought for them, and they spend most of their time at their father's house taking care of his fighting cocks.
Taking care of what?
His fighting cocks, Your Honor, his fighting chickens. Additionally, Your Honor, the children had not received any vaccinations outside of an influenza vaccination since 2007. The children have essentially not left the house for 5 years. They've told their mother that they have not visited friends, they haven't visited family, they have been in that house, and we are even more concerned that the children don't seem to see the reason why this is odd or cause for concern. Ms. Mitchell has also taken the children to a dentist. They had not received any dental care at all. One of the children had aged out for one of the dental requirements, which is sealing of the molars, and Ms. Mitchell has had to pay for that out of pocket, so far $196. Mr. Kirby has also indicated through the children that he does not intend to follow the parenting plan once he is released, that the children will visit Ms. Mitchell on weekends. This is all very concerning to us, Judge. At a minimum today, I want to walk away with a court order that says that these children will be enrolled in school. We do not know what their learning level is. We don't know what their educational level is, that the children will continue to receive regular medical and dental care.
Your client has temporary custody under that prior order, correct?
Yes, sir, Your Honor. It has not been modified yet. I mean,
Right.
there's a lot going on, Judge, and we're very worried about the
We're going to have a hearing for me to determine whether or not that temporary order should continue in full force and effect. And if, we're going to have Mr. Kirby step back. Mr. Kirby, I'm going to conduct a hearing today to determine the status of the children and whether or not Mrs. Mitchell should continue to have temporary custody, and then what, if anything, should be done about your incarceration. But I have some other matters I need to take up before I do that, so we're going to have you step back in the back, and then I'll bring you out in just a few minutes. We'll have that hearing.
Thank you, Your Honor.
All right, we are ready for the hearing on Kirby, Mitchell versus Kirby. Ms. Smith, here for review on the contempt of Mr. Kirby that was found by the court at a prior hearing. And your client was granted temporary custody of the minor children, but if you're ready to put on your proof, we'll let you call your first witness.
I am, Your Honor. I'd call Ms. Mitchell.
Mitchell, come around, please. Go over here, this way. Well, depends on what's going on as to where the camera, where the, let us look good.
Good afternoon, Ms. Mitchell. If you would please state your full name for the court.
Miranda Lee Mitchell.
And Ms. Mitchell, you were formerly married to Mr. Kirby, is that correct?
Correct.
And if you would just point the microphone at yourself, we were trying to record this and the court reporter needs to be able to hear you. Oh, you're not on for this, are you? Can you come on for this? Do you mind? I'm sorry. I apologize, Your Honor. I didn't book the court reporter because I wasn't sure we were going to have a hearing.
Sit back up.
Well, you will have the Zoom, the YouTube recording.
We can do that. I'm sorry, Tammy. I apologize. Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
And I've got my recording going too. And you had how many children with Mr. Kirby?
2.
And the 2 of you were divorced here in Dixon County.
Yes, ma'am.
And as a consequence of that divorce, a parenting plan was entered by this court, correct?
Correct.
And do you remember what visitation was supposed to be like?
I do.
And what was your visitation schedule as far as you understand it?
1 week off and 1 week, they would go to his house for 1 week and then they would come to my house for 1 week.
Okay, and that was back in 2019?
Yes, ma'am.
Your Honor, for the purposes of the record, I'm referring to the documents filed as a consequence of the final decree of divorce filed February 13th, 2019.
All right.
Ms. Mitchell, did you and your ex-husband ever follow the parenting schedule?
For a little bit we did,
Okay, what do you call a little bit?
maybe 2 months.
Okay, and when the parenting schedule was no longer followed, was that your decision or Mr. Kirby's decision?
That was his decision.
And can you tell me a little bit about how the situation deteriorated?
Yes, ma'am. I relapsed on drugs, and I called their dad and told them that my daughter would be bringing the kids back to him and that I would be going to treatment to get myself straightened out. And so that's exactly what I did.
And when did you complete treatment?
I completed the Hope Center in 2020.
Okay. Did your ex-husband know that you had completed treatment?
Yes, I had been in contact with him twice, I think, while I was in the program.
Okay, when you successfully completed the treatment program, did you follow the treatment recommendations?
Yes,
Okay, are you drug-free today?
yes.
Have you been drug-free since you completed the program back in 2020?
Yes, all except I did have surgery on my leg and I had to be on medications for a little bit, but yes, I don't take anything.
So your ex-husband, pardon me, did know that you had successfully completed the treatment program.
Yes,
At that point, did you start back with the parenting schedule?
I tried to. I tried to call him, text him, and he just refused to let me see them, talk to them. He wouldn't, I don't know if they had gotten my cards or not. I think that they said they did get some cards, but he just refused to let me see them.
Did he give you any explanation?
Yeah, I basically blamed it on my relapse.
Okay, but you had made it clear to him that you were drug-free and you had completed treatment?
Yes.
Okay,
I even agreed to take drug tests, for a period of time, so he could know that I was sober and I was trying to make contact with him in some way.
okay. Now, it's been almost 5 years since you were refused access to your children, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, what took you so long to get here?
Well, this process is quite expensive. And, I work at a treatment facility and they don't really pay a lot of money. So as soon as I could, I hired you.
Okay, and what treatment facility do you work for?
Cumberland Heights.
And are you in good standing with them?
Oh, yes.
Okay, and how long have you worked there?
I've worked there since October.
So I want to talk specifically about the current contempt. When was the last time, other than this temporary custody order from the court, that you not saw but spoke to your children?
Oh, I haven't, since that day, I haven't even spoke to them.
What day?
It was, I want to say, maybe the last week of July of 2019.
That was the last time you even spoke to them.
Yes.
Is it your belief that that is completely as a consequence of your ex-husband?
Yes.
Okay. And you're a full-grown woman. Why didn't you just go over there and say, I want my kids?
Because he can, well, for one, he threatened the police, which I don't have a problem with, but that would just make me look bad going over there and him calling the law if my boys were to see that. And in the past, it had already been a situation where they had constantly heard bad things about me being an unfit mother, and I just didn't want to traumatize them any more than that, all of this had already done.
So since the temporary order was entered, how are things going?
They're going good. The first day was a little tough. And I done my part of it and I take full responsibility for that, but there's also another part of that, and that part has been that they thought that I haven't tried to call. They thought that I hadn't tried to come by, and I really couldn't dispute that without saying, going against their dad, and they love their dad, and I don't want to do that. So I really couldn't stand up for myself like that. But aside from the trauma that I've done with my drug addiction, there is probably trauma that's even more so because I've been refused visitation, phone calls, and contact with. Yes.
Okay. And does it seem clear to you that while they have been in contact with their father has been coaching them?
Yes.
What kind of coaching?
Well, I decided to let the boys go back. They have a half brother and sister at their dad's house, and their little sister was having a birthday party on Sunday, and I think I got the boys that Friday, and the boys had said that they didn't want to miss her birthday party, so I allowed them to go back. And when they come back and got in the car, the first thing he said was, well, my dad thinks we should just do weekend visitation. So I didn't say anything. I did, however, continue to let them go back because I know how it feels to be ripped away from somebody, and I didn't want to do that to them. So that's, yeah.
So it's your understanding that their father told them to tell you they only wanted to be there on the weekends?
Yes.
Okay. And that is not your parenting plan, correct?
No.
The parenting plan that he is in jail for not following?
Correct.
Okay. What, if anything, have the boys told you about life with their father and in their father's household these past 4 to 5 years?
Well, they physically are healthy, but the main thing was they had not been inside a restaurant in 5 years until I took them. They had not been in school. They have not seen any of their cousins on my side of the family, any of their aunts. They have not seen any friends outside their stepbrothers, half brother and sister. And so they haven't really been able to socialize outside of their dad, his wife, and their children. That's it.
So would it be fair to say that they've essentially been locked up in the house this whole time?
Yes.
Okay. When you asked the children about their education, what, if any, information could they provide to you?
The only thing that I could get, because I kept asking what type of textbooks they were working out of, and what they said was that they had GED books that they worked out of, that their dad had told them that when they turn 17, they can get their GED.
Did they tell you anything, though? You said worked out of. Did they have any kind of regular schedule? Do you get the impression that they were actually being educated on a day-to-day basis?
No, not at all.
Okay, what was your impression?
Basically that they do 4 hours of chores every day, and academically they have not been getting any type of schooling.
Do you have any idea what their educational level is at this point?
I do not.
Okay, do you have any idea what what grade level they would be testing at?
I think Cameron should be at a 9th going into 10th. Kenton should be at an 8th going into the 9th.
But you have no idea if that's,
No, ma'am, because the school had offered him to bring the boys in for TCAP testing every year that they was enrolled in independent school study, but he never took them in to get tested. So we don't know exactly where they're at.
okay. Is it your desire to enroll the children in public school?
Yes. Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
And would you be asking the court today for an order requiring that they be enrolled in public school?
Yes.
And do you think that that's necessary to ensure that they are properly educated?
Yes.
Your Honor, at this point, I would submit to the court as collective one, the children's school records. These reflect that he was certifying that the children were attending, let's see, here's the other child, I apologize.
Hawkins exhibit.
That he was certifying that they were attending school when they weren't. How about their vaccination records? Were you able to check on those?
I was. They were due 3 vaccinations that they hadn't had a piece, and I was able to take them to the health department and get those.
And how were you able to verify that those had or had not occurred?
Because on the parenting plan, I have joint custody, so they will give you that information if you legally have joint custody of your kids.
Okay, Your Honor, I would ask that these go in as collective 2. These are the children's immunization records prior to them receiving their current immunizations. Okay, you also took the children to the dentist, is that correct?
Correct.
How did that go?
It went good. They had to have sealants on their molars, and I paid for Cameron 4 of his. Insurance will only cover sealants on molars from age 12 to 15, and Cameron had not been to the dentist in 4 years, so he had aged out of insurance pay for the sealant. So I had to pay for the first 4 Thursday, and then he'll need to go back in 3 months to get the other 4.
And then your other child was still covered and was able to obtain that care?
Yes, they sealed 8 of his teeth.
Okay.
Thursday.
Your Honor, as collective 3, I'd like to present the receipt and the care prospectus from the dental facility, which is TriStar Pediatric Dental. Now, Ms. Mitchell, you understand that your husband is not going, ex-husband, I keep doing that, I apologize, is not going to remain incarcerated in perpetuity, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Is it your desire that he be released only upon his agreement to allow the children to be enrolled in public school?
Not going to matter whether he agrees to it or not.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Is it your desire that he remain in jail as long as he refuses to abide by this court order?
Yes,
Okay. Do you think that that's appropriate under these circumstances?
I do.
Okay. Should the court choose to leave temporary exclusive custody with you, are you prepared, ready, willing, and able to meet the educational, physical, and medical needs of these children?
Yes.
Do you think that they will be well in your household?
I do.
Okay. And as far as you can tell, the integration back into your household and your presence as their mother has been a smooth one?
Yes.
Your Honor, I pass the witness.
All right, Mr. Kirby, you're acting as your own lawyer. You will be given a chance to testify if you choose to do so, but this is a point where you can ask questions of this witness. They must be in question form. Do you have any questions you want to ask? All right, thank you, ma'am. You may sit down. Ms. Smith, do you have anything else?
No, sir, Your Honor, that concludes our proof.
All right, petitioner has concluded their proof. Mr. Kirby, do you want to testify? All right, I need you to come forward, please, and have a seat in the witness stand. All right, Mr. Kirby, this is here today for this court's review of the temporary orders and to consider your request to be released from jail. So I'll be glad to hear whatever you want to tell me.
Mr. Wolf, we have a really good homeschool program for our children. We started it when the pandemic started, and they've done real good on it. Matter of fact, today is a field trip of our homeschool for the other children. Tomorrow, the older ones will do a book report on what they've seen over here at the courthouse and stuff, and little ones, my little ones, they'll draw a picture or something to that nature for school tomorrow. Our kids have done wonderful in homeschool. We have all types of programs in our homeschool. The oldest boy will be able to graduate, so I did get him his GED workbook. I also got one for the other teenagers, so they would have a head start on be able to study some of that as they went along, so they could graduate, be a little ahead, be easier for them. So as soon as they graduate, we'll get their license, driver's license. We haven't had a sniffle in our house since 2020. My kids not one of my children have a cavity in their mouth. They brush their teeth twice a day, never had a cavity, none of them. The pediatrician came to our house during the pandemic to do their health checkups. We stay in close contact with their pediatrician. The only boosters the boys didn't have was the ones that go to public school. And they're going to get them in May when they do their physical that's scheduled. We have home baseball team, home football team, home soccer team, home golf. We fish, we fish, we swim in the creek. We got a little pool for them. I take them to the lake. I've devoted my whole life to taking care of my kids. Always been there for them. I don't have nothing. They raise them old chickens. They're not fighting chickens. They put them in the fair at the 4-H in the fair every fall. They win trophies and ribbons with them. They compete against each other in the junior class. They sell the eggs. We give them away to people. Never done anything to take care of the kids since they've been born. I never tried to keep them from their mama as long as she was safe and could take care of them, and never would. I never would keep them from her. I never broke the parent plan. I went there week after week when she went away. It was so hard on them. All we've been doing is waiting on her to pull up down there and ask to see them. I've been waiting to get over here to see you, tell me what to do. We take good care of our children. I have 6 children. I have a 16-year-old son, 2 15-year-old sons, a 14-year-old son, an 8-year-old daughter, and a 7-year-old son. And we take good care of them.
You remember that the original order was for a 50-50 division?
Yes, sir, week on, week off, and we went there. We went there every week, and I made our police report. The weeks we went week after week, Miss Mitchell was gone.
She says that she's contacted you and tried to get back into your children's lives. Is that what you recall?
No, sir. The first time we've heard from her since 2019 was when Miss Smith sent a letter to our house. That's only been about a year ago. Haven't had no contact with her before then.
When you got that letter, what did you respond in any way?
Yes, sir. I responded immediately. I got it by summons from my deputy, and we responded immediately, tried to answer the questions that Miss Smith had asked us to answer to the best of my ability. I got that within 24 hours. And then we got correspondence with Miss Smith. I didn't know what to do. I saw that she was I was waiting on something with your signature on it, that you had seen it. And I thought it would come by way of clerk, from the clerk's office, or my deputy summons me to come over here. I'd never not come over here for anything. Those days are way behind me. We take care of our children, all of them.
So do you understand that she has right now a court order that gives her a 50-50 division of time with the children? Are you willing to abide by that?
100%, as long as it's safe and happy. And I've talked to them, and they're okay. They want to take it slow. I want it to be what's best for them. They told me they wanted to take it slow, that they felt good, and they like where the place they have. And I told them, I said, stick together and make sure that she's okay. And if she's okay, it's good. And they said that they're happy. And everything's okay. So far, everything's okay. And their mom told them that if they wanted to come home, all they had to do was call or to tell her, and she'd bring them home. And I think that up to this point, that's what she's done. And as long as I want the best. I want them in her life. She's her mom. I want her in their life. I always have, but I want her to be in a good place in her life where she can have good quality time with them. No?
All right. Ms. Smith, you have any questions?
Yes, sir, I do. Mr. Kirby, it's your testimony that you've had no contact with Ms. Mitchell since you suspended visitation. Is that correct?
No, ma'am. She wrote us letters from when she was in Portland at some type of a facility. She wrote letters, and I think we submitted those to the court.
Okay, so you haven't been in text message communication with her?
She sent one message.
Okay, well, may I approach, Your Honor?
May.
I'm showing you now just some of the copious text messages that I have from Ms. Mitchell. This is a conversation from February of 2023. Do you recognize these messages? And go ahead and turn the page after you've looked at the first one.
I haven't had a number for her.
Ms. Kirby, if you would just turn the page. Do you recognize these messages?
I don't recognize them.
Okay. Your Honor, I'll have to recall Ms. Mitchell to enter these.
If she sent them, if she said she sent them, then she sent them. I
Well,
don't.
Mr. Kirby, there's somebody responding to Ms. Mitchell from the number that she had from you. Is it your testimony that somebody else is
No, ma'am.
responding?
I'm just saying, if she sent them, if I saw them, I probably did see them. I just don't recall them. If she said, I'm not saying she didn't send them or I responded to them, but you said that's 2023. That's only been.
Mr. Kirby, I said that these are part of a number of text messages that I have. I specifically pulled this one because on May the 3rd, 2023 at 12:35 p.m., you responded to her request, can I talk to the boys on a phone call, with the simple response, leave us alone. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I probably do, but the boys said they didn't want to talk. to
Okay,
her.
Your Honor, I've asked that this be entered as 3, or is this 4?
That's, what month was that? 2023? That's only been,
Mr. Kirby, you knew your wife was in treatment, correct?
yes, ma'am.
Okay, ex-wife. And you knew that she had successfully completed treatment, correct?
Oh, I didn't know when she got out.
Okay, so you don't know when she got out.
She sent a letter and said she was staying in Portland to go live there.
So it's your testimony that you had no idea she was in Dixon County, you had no idea she was trying to see her children, and you had no idea that you were not complying with the parenting plan?
We complied with the parenting plan, Ms. Smith.
Mr. Kirby, it's very simple. The parenting plan is a really easy one. You get a week, she gets a week.
She wasn't there for a week.
Mr. Kirby, the parenting plan is really simple. You get a week and she gets a week. Were you abiding by the parenting plan?
That's my knowledge, I was.
You think that you were?
She wasn't coming to get the kids.
Okay, Mr. Kirby. You said that the kids want to quote unquote take it slow. So it's your intention when you get out of jail to abide by this parenting plan or to go by what the kids want to do?
Abide by it 110%.
Okay, that means 1 week on, 1 week off,
Yes,
not
ma'am.
taking it slow, not doing what the
Yes,
kids
yes.
want. It means week on, week off. You understand that?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and you are ready and willing to abide by that.
100%.
Okay, the court order on the contempt also says that to purge yourself of this contempt, okay, you have to provide to this court records of the children's vaccinations,
Okay.
records of the children's homeschooling, and
Okay.
records of the children's checkups. Have you done that?
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. As far as I know, we've seen all that stuff. Brought
Okay,
that stuff over here. If not, it'll be here in the next day or two if it needs to be. But I'm pretty sure my wife brought all that over here.
okay, because I am entitled to have a copy of whatever you file with the court,
I'll
and I
bring it.
have yet to receive anything from you or your wife.
Well, once they picked me up, we didn't know this was gonna happen. They picked me up. She got it within the next 2 days. She got it all over here. And whatever we need to do, I was just waiting for you to send me something that the judge had signed, Ms. Smith, and I was coming to see you personally. That's all I was waiting. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, but that's what I was waiting on. I was getting your stuff and I was reading it. Some of it I didn't understand. I was going to talk to you, but I was waiting for you to send me something that the judge had signed off on. I was going to come and see you.
But you do concede that you weren't here for the hearing on the contempt, correct?
Yes, ma'am. I didn't know to come.
And you weren't here for the default, were you?
No, ma'am, I wasn't here.
But you received notice because you received those things from my office, correct?
Yes, ma'am, I did.
Okay. Thank you, Your Honor.
When's the last time the kids saw a dentist? These two boys that you have with her?
To my knowledge, Judge, that we took them, with the pandemic come, right? When the pandemic hit in 2020, nobody went to the dentist, but I don't think it's been over a year or so. I think we went through all of them. They all went to the pediatric dentist.
Who did they see when they got?
Over at the pediatric dentist across from Good Law.
Right. When was the last time they saw a doctor?
Miss Kelly came up to the house and during the, probably, like I said, we hadn't had a sniffle at our house in 2020, not a sniffle. And with 6 kids, that's pretty good. Now, not even a cold or anything. They've had they got the COVID, they went and got their COVID vaccines and everything, but they haven't been sick. And I talked to Miss Kelly, Kelly Sharp, their pediatrician. She said, she would call, and I talked to her. She came out to the house and checked on them during the pandemic, offered to do it. And we've been in correspondence with her. They haven't been sick to go to the doctor. I mean, they're perfect, they're
Have you had
healthy.
the children evaluated by the school system to see where they are in their education?
Sure, not by the school system, but if I need to do that, I will. They're way ahead of where they need to be. All of them are.
Right.
They learn a lot better at the
Have a
house.
seat. You can have a seat back at the table.
Right.
All right, Ms. Smith, anything else?
No, sir, Your Honor, other than we would ask that temporary custody remain with my client until Mr. Kirby can produce the documentation necessary to purge him of his contempt. We would also respectfully request that at a minimum, these children be evaluated by the Dixon County school system to see where they actually are in their education, because regardless of Mr. Kirby's testimony, we have absolutely zero proof, and we have facts from the children that essentially he bought some GED books and said that they wouldn't have to fool with it until they took their test when they were 17. That mortifies me, Your Honor, and I think it needs to be addressed.
Well, this court's order that was entered at the motion for default on the civil contempt was that based on the fact that he had not been in compliance with the court's orders, Ms. Mitchell was not in her original pleadings seeking a transfer or change of custody on a permanent basis, and it was instead basically to enforce the court's order. And we've got 2 teenage boys that have been living with their father predominantly and haven't been allowed to see their mother or haven't seen their mother. So this review today was based upon the fact that with nothing else going on and no appearance by Mr. Kirby, the court had a little choice but to find he was in contempt and to issue an order that granted her the temporary custody of the children. However, based upon the circumstances as they presently exist, I'm going to suspend his sentence in jail for civil contempt. What that means is I've sentenced you to 6 months in jail on a civil contempt. Civil contempt means that you are being sentenced to jail because you're not complying with the court order. If you bring yourself into compliance with the court order, it's what we call purge. You purge yourself of that contempt, and therefore there's no reason to punish you anymore. I don't want to punish you. I just want to make sure she is given the same rights that you have regarding these children, because they're her children too. Now, based on the facts that appear before me and by the testimony here today, I've raised 4 children, 4 teenagers, and they all need to go to the dentist. They all need to go to the doctor. And it sounds like you're saying there's no cavities in the house, and that may be, but you don't really know that until you've actually been taken to a doctor or a dentist. So I am suspending the balance of your sentence, Mr. Kirby. That means the remainder of that 6-month sentence is going to be over your head just to make sure that you comply with the court's order. And I'm going to reinstate the original custody order, which is a 50-50 division of time. The reason I'm doing that for you, Ms. Mitchell, is because these boys have been living predominantly with him, and it sounds like they have activities and siblings at his house. And while they need to be with you, they also need to be with their father. And this is not it may be somewhat of a neglect situation with their education and their other needs, but it doesn't appear to be abusive in that respect, except for his perhaps preventing them from having contact with you. So this order is going to guarantee that this original parenting plan that was put down in 2018, I guess it was, or 19, will be the plan that goes forward until there's some pleading to ask me to change that. But Mr. Kirby, Ms. Mitchell has the right to see these children, and she will be sharing that. So in order to do that, I'm going to, on a temporary basis, make this a joint residential schedule, meaning that she will have as much right to decide the issues with these. You'll each be a joint, it's what we call a joint residential schedule, even though you don't reside together. But I'm designating her as having the same rights regarding decision-making and so forth as you do. And education, decision, everything, you two are going to be on an equal basis. And that's to ensure that this plan is complied with. And we're going to do that temporarily. It may not work on the long term, but we're going to try it temporarily and see if that happens. In the meantime, I think that we need to have these boys' education level determined. And the best way to do that, I'm not against homeschooling, but I am concerned that homeschooling doesn't always meet the criteria that I've seen. A lot of homeschool programs that are deficient. Yours may be an excellent program as you think, but let's get them tested with the school system to determine, and let's do that as quickly as possible, where we can determine where they are and their educational level and what needs they may have. I want them to be able to have a regular dentist checkup, and that's what I understood that Ms. Mitchell has done. And if there needs to be any other, I think she's taking care of the vaccinations. And so it sounds like everything has been met at the present time. If there are out-of-pocket expenses, Mr. Kirby will pay half of that as well. Now, was there anything else that needs to be dealt with? I'm going to require him to produce any of these records, but I'm not going to condition him purging himself of contempt on it. He'll be under a court order to produce any records regarding the homeschooling and children's vaccinations and any other yearly checkups and things. That'll just be an order of the court. And Mr. Kirby, the only thing I can do to enforce an order is what they give me as a hammer, and you just have experienced that.
Sure.
It is not a pleasant thing, and I know you know that.
Yes.
And I want to make sure of one thing, and do not blame to your boys their mother for you going to jail. You tell them to blame me. I'm the one who ordered you to jail, okay? So it's very important that you not try to poison them against their mom or to make them feel resentful towards her because you've had to be incarcerated in jail. It was my order that put you there. So if they have any animosity about this situation or they have any concerns, you tell them the judge did it, your mom was just, take me back to court to see you, and that's it. And don't talk to them about it per se. I trust that you're going to follow since you've had a taste of what happens when you don't follow the order, you're going to follow what I'm telling you. So these boys deserve to know you both. And it sounds like that there's You got a full household of family, and that they need to be a part of that, but they need to be a part of her family as well. So different people have different things. The pandemic that we went through changed a lot of people's lives. But that doesn't mean it can't get back to a normal situation now. I saw that the CDC is now classifying COVID as being treated pretty much the same as the flu. So a lot of these restrictions that went down with COVID are no longer applicable. Ms. Smith, is there anything else?
No, sir, Your Honor, thank you. I'll draft the order.
All right. Do you understand what we're doing?
Yes, sir.
All right. So when you are released from jail, let's go ahead and finish out this week with their mother, and then they'll exchange every Friday at 6 p.m. So that they'll go to your house at 6 p.m. Friday for a week. The next Friday, they go to her. Now, both parties have the right to contact these boys by telephone, FaceTime, or whatever during the time they're with the other. So when you're released, you can call them up at her, when you get out of jail, you call them up and talk to them at her house and so forth. Let's not talk to them. She's been through a rehabilitation. She works for a real rehabilitation system. They are teenagers. They can tell if something's going on with her that she falls off the wagon. But what I don't want is for you to talk to them about keep an eye on your mom, watch out for this sign or that sign. Give her the credit that she's finished out that rehabilitation, she's got her life straight, and don't make them play detective, looking for every little thing to see and coming back and report to you. Let's let them try to have a normal relationship. And my ruling today is not for you and it's not for her. It is for your boys to get to have an opportunity to have both of you in their lives, which is what they deserve. So that's what I'm telling you. So I'm going to set a review on this case just to make sure that everything's going along well and we don't have any problems, and then we can make any kind of modification as we need to. Do we have something about 90 days down? It won't be a...
All my other children are out there with the mom. Could they come in here and see that everything's okay? And like I said, this is gonna be part of their school. Or do you wanna do that?
These are your other children,
All the children are out there.
including the two boys
I don't want
involved?
to have animosity towards the court. And they felt bad because
Tell them, come on in.
they're outside. My wife and all the kids those are out there too, aren't they? Huh?
Your Honor, do you really think it's appropriate for them to see him in his jumpsuit with shackles?
What is that?
It's not,
Yes,
I'm
sir.
going home, so they know it. They've been tore up all 2 weeks.
We do. Well, I'm gonna have to draft an order, and I'll draft one to release it.
If you don't think it's a good idea, I don't want them to have animosity toward the court. They know they saw me get arrested, and that was a bad thing for them little ones. But I don't want them to grow up with animosity toward the court. That's why I've never not been over here.
All right, Mr. Kirby had requested that his children and his wife be allowed to come into the courtroom, and I consented to that. And for that reason, I want you to understand, Mr. Kirby is going to be released from jail based on this court's order. I want to make sure that everybody understands this is a court of law, and therefore I have to enforce certain rules. The reason that Mr. Kirby was sitting in jail for the last little bit has been because there was proof shown to me that he had violated a court order. It's not like he robbed a bank, but there are court orders down that protect children and that ensure that both parents have a right to see their children. Mrs. Mitchell is not responsible for him sitting in jail. Only I am responsible for him being in jail. So there should be no animosity about that. But because of the fact that I think it was an important lesson, and now Mr. Kirby has had that reinforced, I'm going to be releasing Mr. Kirby to allow him to go home. But he and I've had a talk. We've come to an understanding that a court order is something that has to be obeyed. There's not an option where somebody can say, well, I don't want to go to my mom, so Dad don't make me. That only gets Mr. Kirby in trouble. So he'll have to enforce that court order, and the boys will need to to follow along with him so that they can see it. It is not my intention to punish someone unless they violate a law. So I don't think Mr. Kirby is going to have a problem again in following this order. And I'm sorry that it took such a radical and severe punishment to enforce that. But Mr. Kirby and I have reached an agreement that he's going to follow all of the restrictions and the laws or the rules that go down in this order. And I'm going to have to take a break in order to prepare the order that he be released. But again, this is simply going to be an order to be released. You will draft the order that shows the contempt will be suspended and will be set for a review down the road. So
Yes, sir, Your Honor.
main thing is any of the family that's here, we need to make sure that the two boys that are Mr. Kirby and Miss Mitchell's sons don't feel like that there is any reason for them to have animosity towards Miss Mitchell, their mother. I'm trying to encourage the relationship between the two of them rather than to make it more difficult. So this homeschooling program may be the way to go for all of your children and for these two children. But I want to get your children evaluated so that we can determine that. Since they're already in this program, we need to make sure they continue in it until we can get them evaluated, okay? And so you're going to draw the order. Let's set it for a review. What about that May 2nd date? It's just a review, so. What? I was saying May 2nd. Let's set a review for May the 2nd, okay?
Yes, sir, Your Honor.
All right.
And I'll include that in the order. Thank you, Judge. That concludes my business.
Thank you, Judge.
Judge, we have one announcement about the disestablishment motion, and then we're going to finalize all the documents even after court closes out, so we'll be okay with that.
I want to thank you all for being here with me today. I hope you enjoyed the stream. Some of it's hard to hear, but I kind of wonder, like, do you believe the dad or do you believe the mom? I kind of feel like, okay, so the mom just feels like she can go off and do drugs, and then when she gets ready and healed, she can come back. Saying that, I've never been an addict so I don't know what that's all about. But it would just seem like as a mother, you'd have the strength not to do drugs. But I don't know this woman. Then turning back to the dad, I don't think he's doing what he says he's doing, and I definitely think he was lying on the stand. So that is just that's my small opinion. Hopefully these children will be able to have some joint custody, get their life straightened out, get them some socialization, get them some education. And thanks again, everybody, for being here with me. Y'all stay well, and I'll see you on the next episode of Court Hoppin'. Court Hoppin'.